It's the most wonderful time of the week. We're back. It is Bold Predictions. It is Andy Backstrom. It's Tim May, the 41-year vet, and it's Spencer Holbrook. Let's talk Ohio State and Purdue. Big noon kickoff on Fox because it's such a massive game. The folks at Fox just couldn't get enough of the Buckeyes, so they took them for this Purdue game in the Horseshoe. Andy, bold prediction. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to run for at least 250 yards in this game. They ran for 176 against Penn State, and Penn State is fifth in the Big Ten in rushing yards allowed per game. And then you look at Purdue, well, they're dead last in that category with 203.3 yards per game allowed on the ground. So I think Ohio State's going to keep things pretty simple, run the football, try to continue to build some confidence with this new look offensive line. Carson Hinsman and Donovan Jackson both graded out as champions in the Penn State game. I'm sure they're going to want to continue to build on that performance that they had as a unit and just keep it simple. Run the football, or as Seth McLaughlin would say, run the damn ball, and use those two running backs as long as, maybe James Peoples gets some run in a game like this as well. So I'm going at least 250 rushing yards for the Buckeyes.
What do you got, Tim?
I've got Jeremiah Smith scoring at least 3 touchdowns, minimum 3 touchdowns against Purdue. Final answer, because Purdue is 120th in the nation in total defense, which means they're really not stopping anybody on a consistent basis. And they haven't played any receiver with the talents of Jeremiah Smith that seem to be more refined. He finds another way to refine it a little bit more every week, including what he called his big gaffe last week, was basically slowing down, almost stopping on that deep route that would have gotten him a touchdown and really blown that game open at Penn State. So I'm seeing Jeremiah Smith scoring minimum 3 touchdowns on Saturday against Purdue. Final answer.
Yeah, you see, sometimes I come into these bold predictions and it's just on vibes. It's just, what do I think is going to happen? I don't know. Let's hit the vibes button and see where we're at. And I think that's a fun way to do it. This week I did a lot of research. I was actually got a couple sticky notes here full of stuff I was going to talk about, and it all had to do with Purdue's run defense, Andy. And so you take the bold prediction because I let you go first, and that's completely fair. So now I'm going back to the vibes machine because I was going to predict a rushing total for Ohio State of 300 yards, which they haven't hit since they played Indiana in 2022. Instead, I will go with 6 different Buckeyes reach the end zone. I think 6 different Ohio State players will score a touchdown in this game. I do not see a world in which Ohio State does not hit 40 points in this game unless it truly takes its foot off the gas and just chews clock in the second half. I do not see a world in which Purdue and all of that man-to-man defense that Ryan Walters plays, despite not having the athletes to run that defense, keeps up with these Ohio State receivers, whether that's the starting 3, whether that's Brandon Inniss, one of the other backup receivers who are going to be in the game late in the fourth quarter, whether that's running backs, just handing the ball off the running backs or out of the backfield in the passing game. I think at least 6 different Buckeyes will score a touchdown in this game. It's one of those opportunities in November to spread the love a little bit. And as much as I would love to see Jeremiah Smith catch 3 touchdowns, I'm not going to predict that. I will predict that 6 different Buckeyes score.
It's going to trump y'all's rushing stuff is when they hit 2 or 3 big time passing plays.
Probably.
And that'll take away some of those rushing opportunities. Just want to let you know that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm glad you gave us the heads up, Tim. That's always
You're welcome.
Andy, you got an offensive player of the game for me?
I'm going TreVeyon Henderson. It feels like they alternate. TreVeyon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. Quinshon Judkins had 94 yards or 95 yards in the game against Penn State, kind of led that backfield. But TreVeyon Henderson had a pretty good game as well. Both have been awesome as blockers this year in pass protection and also in run blocking. I think TreVeyon Henderson will have a good day, and one of those days where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a reminder that he could be the top back as well this year if you really want it to be. I think they're still 1A, 1B, but on Saturday, TreVeyon will be 1A.
Tim?
Will Howard is number 3 in the nation as we speak right now in passing efficiency. I see him just having finally his complete game from the standpoint of hanging onto the football just before you get to the goal line, all those other little things that have kept him from really being at the top of the chart in a couple of categories, including, I think, Heisman consideration, and all these people who think he doesn't quite have it to take them to the promised land. I go, what are you watching? Just a couple of gaffes. We're not talking about he just can't make plays. I'm seeing Will Howard as the offensive player of the game. Final answer.
Yeah, it's a good pick, Tim. That's absolutely a good pick. I will go with Emeka Egbuka. He is barreling toward those receiving records.
Yep.
He is just an absolute bear to deal with in man-to-man situations because he's shifty. His ability to get open is his craftiness. I love the way that he operates on the field, and I think that there's some opportunities for him to score some touchdowns. I think back to the last time Ohio State hosted Purdue in 2021, Garrett Wilson in the slot. I know there's a different Purdue coaching staff, a different Purdue scheme and defense, but Garrett Wilson had four touchdowns, I believe 3 receiving and 1 rushing. I don't think that's Emeka's fate this game, but I do think that he's going to get, potentially a 100-yard game, start to really creep in on that record that he could break, against Indiana or against Michigan, depending on how the next couple weeks go. But he's barreling toward that record, and I'm going to start to talk about him more and more as he gets there, because he's a special player who I think often gets overlooked because he's maybe never been the top receiver in the receiver room, but he's going to be the top receiver in Ohio State history here in just a few weeks. You got a defensive player of the week, Andy?
I'm going with Sonny Styles, a Butkus Award semifinalist. I think a lot of people were surprised. Maybe some people were surprised that he was a Butkus Award semifinalist and not Cody Simon. Both could have been. You could argue that. But Sonny Styles does lead the team in tackles. I think he's been a lot better the last 3-4 games. And I think he'll prove why he's on that list of 15 players on Saturday against Purdue and will lead the team with tackles.
I'm going to go with a young man who is basically being castigated right now. I think that's the correct term, but I think this is the game where Jack Sawyer busts out, and I like the matchup that he's going to face more often than not on Saturday. I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer. I'm not going to name stats or whatever. I'm just going to go with Jack Sawyer being a major factor on Saturday. Jack Sawyer, final answer.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path with my pick, and it's kind of just a projection. Maybe Ohio State wants to see what this guy can do with more of a run. Edric Houston's played 5 snaps 2 weeks ago. Then he played 6 snaps at Penn State in the 3 technique spot. Ryan Day said that they really like him there. Whether that's a long-term solution for him, I don't know, but I think he gives them something in the middle there at defensive tackle at the 3 technique that they really haven't had. They had it a little bit with Mike Hall, but he's undersized. You look at a guy like Draymond Jones, who was really long, big, physical. I think Edric could have a future there. And I don't think he's going to have like 3 sacks and 10 tackles, but like if a true freshman finally plays more snaps and has like a sack or even like 2 tackles for loss, like I think that qualifies as like, hey, that's a good enough for me to earn, maybe a Buckeye leaf on the helmet or just a helmet sticker, from that college football show that we all used to watch, or, the defensive player of the game. I don't think he's going to have like lead the team in tackles or make a play that changes the game. But if he plays more and he looks good, I think that's good enough for me to give him a nod. So maybe that's a little too off the beaten path or niche, but I am going to give some preview to Edric Houston in the 3 technique spot. I think Ohio State might see what he can do there for the rest of the season.
Wait. Were we picking defensive player of the game or way to go guy player of the game?
Well, Tim, I
might want to change my answer,
Hey, Tim, as the guy who sets the show up and edits it and posts it,
produces, directs it.
Yeah. There are times where I make the rules, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk about Edric Houston there.
Okay, but that sounded almost like a post-youth soccer game situation there. Everybody gets a sticker.
All right, well, here, I think Cody Simon's going to lead the team in tackles. So there, you can give him the player.
Okay, there you go. Now there you go. I like Edric Houston. I like the idea there, fellas. I mean, they're onto something right there. When you put a guy with that kind of talent in the middle of a defense, these 3 techs don't have to be 290, 300, 400 pounds. They just have to be quick as a cat and causing you problems right off the get-go. And I think that's got great potential down the road.
Yeah, so just trying to
down the road.
just trying to preview a couple things. To be honest, guys, like we haven't really talked much about Ohio State Purdue this week because A, we've been talking the aftermath of Ohio State Penn State, and B, just spinning this thing forward for the rest of the season. Whereas like we haven't talked much about Ohio State Purdue specifically. So I guess maybe that was my opportunity to just talk about a guy that I'm excited to watch. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. And that's my
It's a
bad.
favorable, to fill people in, it's a favorable matchup for Ohio State.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Of course, so did Nebraska seem to be the same way. Don't sleep on anybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ohio State has certainly not slept on Purdue. They've been talking. We're focused on Purdue quite a bit this week. It's actually been a stark contrast compared to what we usually hear with Ohio State, where they say like, "Oh, we're focused on ourselves. Oh, we're doing this, trying to just get better every day." Like, no, we got to go beat Purdue, and I think that's probably a good sign for what the score might be. Andy, score prediction, please.
Yeah, there's a reason why Ryan Day is 44-0 against unranked opponents. I think he knows how to get his guys ready for these games, and maybe there's been a scare here and there, but they haven't lost these games. So I'm going to Ohio State 49, Purdue 7, with those 7 points coming with the second team or third team defense in the game. Look, Purdue scored 0 points against Oregon, the top ranked team in the country. I don't think they'll have much more success offensively against Ohio State, even though Ryan Day did talk about how he likes what Purdue is doing on offense right now. They do have a few good playmakers, but overall, this defense for Purdue is such an issue that I don't expect any hiccups for Ohio State's offense. Purdue is tied for 128th nationally with 36.9 points per game allowed. They only have 5 takeaways this season. So if you're looking for a game, like Tim said, for Will Howard to have everything complete, no turnovers, this is a good one. Only taking the ball away 5 times all year. So it could be a get-right game for Will Howard to have a clean sheet.
Tim?
Yeah, I've been debating this all along because I've told y'all, you fellas, the folly of predicting a shutout. And so I'm not going to go there because one little boo-boo here or there and boom, they're kicking a field goal. But I think Ohio State has a shot at one in this. But with that said, I'm going to go with Ohio State clearly to cover in this game. I think last time I looked, they were 36, 37 point favorite. And I look for something, Ohio State 45, 45 to 9. I think that covers, right? Yeah. 45 to 9. I don't know why I even get into cover because I don't gamble. But Ohio State, something in the neighborhood of 45 to 9. Final answer.
Okay.
Although it sounded a little wishy-washy.
It sure did, Tim.
It sounded a lot wishy-washy.
You seem a little unsure of yourself there, Tim.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath. Go ahead now.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ohio State 59, Purdue 3. Guys, I feel bad for this Purdue team and the schedule that they've got to play coming up. They're at Ohio State this week. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. Then they host Penn State, which is not going to be fun for them. Then they're at Michigan State, a team that I think is pretty much, on the upswing, starting to improve, show some things in year one under their coach. And then they're at Indiana to close out their season. And Kurt Signetti is going to just try to put a number on the rival in the first game, with him as head coach, send a statement there when Purdue is absolutely down. I see this team being 1-11. This team plays terrible defense. They have a defensive head coach who is now calling the offensive plays. It is not a good situation, and I do not see this game being competitive in any facet. If it is, I think it will be an indictment on Ohio State and not a kudos to Purdue. I'm not going to predict Ohio State to do that because the Buckeyes have felt pretty focused all week. We were in the Woody on Wednesday, and it seemed very locked in on Purdue specifically, and that is terrible news for the Boilermakers. So,
by the way, Purdue, according to Jimmy Shapiro of the Action Network, Purdue is a 38-point underdog, the largest dog they've been since 1989.
Yeah, it's not a great situation, and there's only one thing. Purdue's got that train mascot to the Boilermakers. There's only one thing that can stop a moving train, and it's a bigger train. And Ohio State has the bigger train. So I'm taking the blowout. That's bold predictions. That's offensive player of the game. That's defensive player of the game. And score picks, obviously a solemn one if you're a Boilermaker. It should be a fun day for the Buckeyes in the horseshoe, though. For Andy Backstrom, for Tim May, I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys back here on the YouTube channel. Break down Ohio State Purdue and the immediate aftermath of that game on the field in the horseshoe like the video below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll get a notification when we go live and when we post some videos. And then go over to lettermenrow.com, get all of your Ohio State coverage. We would love to see you over there at lettermenrow.com for the stretch round of Ohio State season. It starts this week. 4 games left. 2 of them are huge games. 2 of them should be a lot of fun for the Buckeyes. 1 of them in a baseball stadium. It's a weird November. Again, Andy in the middle, Tim on the other side. I'm just Spencer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys over at lettermenrow.com.